tube, and welcome to Fairy Tales and French Knots. I'm Erin, and this is a channel about cross stitch, where I talk long enough to make my family wonder what I'm up to, but short enough that you can watch this on your lunch break. Today is Wednesday, February 4th of 2026, and this is video number whatever it said in the title down there. It's been about a month since I did a video. My last post was my WIP parade. So I've been stitching all month. I'm pretty proud of myself, and I have quite a bit to show you. No stash purchasing. I am proud of that as well. But what I have started doing is back in August, I bought myself a little blank journal. Nothing special, not a stitcher's journey or anything like that. It's just your standard blank book with days in it. So what I've started doing is before I go to bed every night, I write down what I worked on. No number of stitches or amount of time or anything like that. That was just too much stress for me. But I have, every day what I worked on. If I finished it, I highlight it in pink. If there's events that I go to, like last weekend was my guild's winter whimsy retreat, which was a lot of fun. I put that in here. So it's really just a little annual journal of what I've done. I've tried different systems over the years. I've had a small book where I kept track of what I started and what fabric I was using and the changes I made. And even that was getting overwhelming. So right now, this is making me happy. So this is what I'm going to go with for the year. And it is nice because I can see what I've worked on that I should show you since my last video. So if that's what we're going to do, we're going to start with what I've been working on. And I have been working on a couple different things. I have some smaller projects that I work on when I just need a little palette cleanser. Also, my lunchtime stitching that I take to work. And I have some bigger pieces that have been on my frames and loaded up on the Lowry here for evening and weekend stitching. So I'm going to start with the big pieces because they're sitting right here next to me, just off camera. They're really good. They understand their cues. I'll start with those and then go to the smaller projects. So project number 1 that I've been working on is Secret Sky by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I'll put a picture from Jacob's website here. And this is what I have on my piece right there. I finished this motif right here. I worked on this one up here, added some to this, which will be a flower, and got some of this one done as well. I'm stitching this on a 36 count gray linen of some sort, and the floss I'm using is DMC 4240, which is one of the DMC overdyes. It's like a navy and bright blue and purple. So there it is. The middle of it is, I believe, right there. That little motif. So I am more than halfway done with this piece. That's very exciting. So that I've been working on. I've also been working on Sea Hag by Plum Street Sampler. And I have advanced that in my scroll rods since my last WIP parade. And, yeah, like I said, just off camera, here she is. I've got this row of little blue fishies done, and I've got the text going up above. I can't remember what it says up above. I think it's something like red sky at night is the sea hag's delight. For she sings bonny sailors from bed. Yes. But yes, so that's coming along. The little fish they're just cute. And really, once the lettering is done, then there's a compass rose way up at the top, and then that will be the top. So this one could be a finish this year, I think. So those are my two bigger scroll frame projects. I've also been working on Ginger from Stacy Nash. I took the class at the Jingle Ball. I did not finish it. It's getting there. So here is Ginger. You may notice, if you've seen her stitched elsewhere, the pattern has her with ice skates. My Ginger wanted to have roller skates, so I found tiny buttons on either Etsy or Amazon. I can't remember now. I think I found them on Etsy, because on Amazon I would have had to buy like 500 of them, and on Etsy I could get 12. So I still have some extra very tiny orange roller skate wheel colored buttons if anybody wants them. So that's Ginger. And I've been working on World of Hedgehogs from Stitchy Princess. That came from her Etsy shop, and that's the one that's been my work project. So it gets, like, on a good day, 40 or 50 stitches. I only get a half hour for lunch. I can sometimes finagle that into 45 minutes if no one's paying attention. So that's usually one thread, and however far I can go with it. I try to find places where there's a lot of that color. However, if you've ever worked on a Stitchy Princess piece, there's a lot of confetti stitching, and it's very scattered. It's lovely, and I like the finished product. It just doesn't lend itself to, 20 minutes of stitching at a time. So this is where that piece is right now. And this is the top corner up here. So obviously I have mostly border left to finish. I have to add the bottoms to some of these little mushrooms. And there's half of an owl missing up here in the top. So like I said, I jump around with whatever color is in my needle. So that's World of Hedgehogs. And then I've made it a goal for the year to finish the Stitch for Pride 2025 pieces that all relate to trans folks. So first, I'm kind of jumping out of order here. I'm going to show you a finish because I started and finished this piece since my last video. And it is the July 2025 Stitch for Pride piece from Dee's 20 Stitches. Again, I did not print off the education bit, so I can't give you those details right off the top of my head. I know that this piece commemorates a Mexican trans person who identified as male and fought with the Zapatistas. So here is my piece. This is stitched on a 40 count natural linen, and I used a one-off overdyed thread from Norgrove Enterprises. It's an Etsy shop that has some of the funkiest colors out there. I think I shared them in my last video, so if you want to check out their shop, go to my previous video or two, and there's a link there. I'll put a link here too, why not? But yeah, so that's the bird is done in those colors. The crown is done in a Krynic silver, and then I had an anchor, or maybe a Coats brown. I'm basically using the Stitch for Pride pieces as kind of stash busters to get some stuff out of my floss bins. But I'm also apparently incapable of stitching a monochromatic piece in one color. Sorry. So that was the July Stitch for Pride, which leads me to my last WIP that I want to show tonight, which is the August Stitch for Pride. And this one is for, it commemorates Saint Anastasia. And again, the patrician. I know that she was a patrician. That was a handmaid to one of the Byzantine emperors, and then left that position and ran away to live as a monk, as part of a cloistered monk for the rest of their life. And the piece is a piece of Byzantine pottery. So my colors are completely different. This is what I have. Let me put it against a piece of cardboard. And this fabric is a piece of redwood from Dames of the Needle. The floss is Enya by Rami's Creations. And I think thinking about the Byzantine Empire for some reason made me think of Enya music. It just felt like a good fit, I guess. And I have a feeling that really what it made me think of was Loreena McKennitt and one of her albums, which is titled something, Night Ride Across the Caucasus is one of the songs on the album Caravanserai. I've just said a bunch of words that may have been completely wrong and unconnected, so feel free to just pretend you didn't hear any of that. August 2025, Stitch for Pride. Almost done. I have to finish the top of the pot and the broken pieces over here. So those are my whips. There's been some progress made. I think I've got several hundred stitches into both the bigger pieces. The smaller pieces are moving along. I feel like I'm in a good place. And that good place is magnified because I have finishes. I mean, I had the Stitch for Pride. The July piece is finished. I have two other finishes. One of them I posted in my shorts earlier, or my quickies section. It is from Brenda Gervais. It was called... One moment, please. Why we kept the book, right? We can look it up. I started A Tisket, a Tasket by Brenda Gervais, and I finished it. I stitched this on 40 count, and the finished piece on the package, the photo, is finished on top of a candlestick holder, like a little pincushion piece. So I stitched it on 40 count to make it even smaller, because I like small things. And I put it on top of this little pot, which looks to me exactly like a speckled robin's egg. So there's the stitched piece. And this top has a little seal on it. It's actually one of those wee yogurt tops that people sell if you're going to repurpose your little glass wee yogurt cup. You can find these on, I think, Amazon and Etsy, depending on how fancy you want them. I did not want a fancy one because I was going to glue stuff to it. So there's a little pot. Fits right on there. I mounted the little bird piece on a piece of mat board with some batting, and then I ran some ribbon around the edge so you can't tell that it's glued together, and a flower, because flowers. So that's A Tisket, a Tasket by Brenda Gervais, who is With Thy Needle and Thread, but I think this pattern is old enough that it does not say With Thy Needle and Thread on it. So there's that. And then while I was at the Winter Whimsy retreat, I brought a small, which was the Virginia Beach Sampler by Shepherd's Bush. It was a retreat piece for their By the Sea retreat, which was obviously in Virginia Beach. Now, I did not go to that retreat, I've never been to Virginia Beach, so when I stitched it, I decided it would not say that. And I changed mine to say by the sea. And I added this little mermaid heart. I also moved this anchor because it was over here and made it taller. And I added the little sparkly beads to look like bubbles. I changed the shape of this yellow fish because he was a row shorter than the pink fish, and he just looked squashed. I didn't like him, so made him look the same. And I swapped in a Vicki Clayton hand-dyed silk for the waves up here under the mermaid and under the words. I used an old skein of Steelies that I had. And then I obviously finished it on this spool. I am not an expert at spool finishes yet. Part of the problem I had with this one is that I didn't have enough width in my fabric to go all the way around. So I had to kind of splice them together here. And the seams are a little wonky. And there is also a seam here, which I, hid with my cording. It's okay. It's not perfect. I did not make a how I did this video because if you've ever seen the old, I don't know if it was YouTube or TikTok, the guy who thinks that all needle crafts are easy and tries them and we all laugh at him, it would have been a video of that flavor if I had tried to do this. You would have heard a lot of swearing and watched me possibly glue my fingers together. Actually, no, I did not use any glue here. So if I ever wanted to, I could take this whole thing apart and throw it away and have a lovely spool to put something else on. So by the sea, little shepherd's bush piece, all done. Now, I have framing. I'm so excited. I just picked it up today. I took it to my guild meeting. So sadly, you're not the first people to see it, but pretty close. I took the old Shaker Tune by Homespun Elegance and the Forget Me Not sampler from Victorian Motto Sampler Shop to my framer. Probably mid-January. The Homespun Elegance piece, I had a thrift store frame to repurpose. And the other frame was from the frame shop. So I'll start with my rescued frame. It's perfect. It gives it exactly the antiqued look that I wanted. So it's got this gold kind of fillet, this kind of gray-green color. There's the piece. So it's no bigger. I think the opening on the frame is about 7 by 7 maybe. So I think he did a lovely job. I can see that the corners started to separate, especially up here at the top on him a little bit. But like I said, this frame came from the antique store and he patched this together for me. And it came out really lovely. So I can see where he, put some reinforcement in there to try and hold those corners together too. It may have come from the antique store, but I don't think it was like any kind of, well-made antique. So that was framing job number 1. And this one, so here's the other thing. When I take my framer, a piece that has been, has a repurposed frame to it, I start to feel guilty, like, oh, here, would you frame this for me? And not charge me a lot. So I usually take him one like that and then follow it with something that needs to be completely framed by him. And my framer is wonderful. He has these like big moving walls of carpet, and then he has all of his little frame corners velcroed to it in, obviously some sort of order that he knows. I don't know what it is. And he doesn't mind if I start, moving the walls around and going, what about this one? Do you have this in another color? And, we work together really well. So framing is always exciting for me. I love framing. So this is what the two of us came up with. It is stunning. It is the perfect frame for this piece. It's this rustic, swirly blue that pulls the blues in the piece perfectly. Yeah. I just love it. There's the center. And the sampler is not, it's all just cross stitches. It's nothing fancy. I made a few changes to it. I think I talked about this when I showed it before. I added my initials here. I added the date here. Changed some colors on the trees, but it's just cross stitches and it's on a 40 count. So I think this finished frame looks like it's about 15 by 15, like edge to edge, outer edge to outer edge. So it's not huge, which is the other reason I like 40 counts. So those are my finishes. So you've seen some progress, some small finishes, and my 2 framing presents to myself. And that's about all I've got for tonight. So everybody stay warm and keep making cool yeah. Stay warm and keep making cool stuff and being good people. Bye.